Yeah,
Yo. Damn, I'm sorry. I was thrown up by that. I was into that music. It took me back to my 20s and early 30s, actually. So I was in AC hearing DJ Boris. Anyway, welcome to welcome to Birds Deep. It is not Friday night. It is Thursday, and we are on the premises of week 3. I got Cool McCain right above me. I'm the Godfrey, THEEGODFREY. We're going to give you all that Birds Deep goodness. And below me, I got my man, the NFL genius. Gene, tell him who you are.
Me! Woo! Gene.
There we go.
Little Ric Flair action. Always gotta get the Ric Flair. I feel good. I am in a mood right now, a funny mood, because I think it's hilarious to listen to people talk about the holes in the Eagles' 2-0 record. The only hole I see is in the 0-loss column.
Yeah. That is hilarious. I do think some of that is driven by terrestrial sports talk radio. One of the topics I heard this week, which I was like, I'm turning this shit off. Sorry, it's a family show. But anyway, sometimes. But
turn it on, turn it off, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so what happens is they were talking about, did we set expectations too high for Jalen? I'm like, what? I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's, you could tell it was a long week because they had Joel Trollio, as I like to call him, and Elliot Troll Parks on there. And when it's a Thursday night game, man, they're going to run out of topics unless the Phillies playoffs have started. So it's a little thirsty out there. And I think people are making problems when there isn't any. I mean, it's not perfect, but we'll get into that, with the grades and everything and things that we see that haven't happened yet or we think should have happened. We can dice and slice that here on Birds Deep this week.
Well, I mean, we should get into the grades almost immediately because we do have a preview to do for Monday Night Football. I don't want to miss out on what we've seen on Thursday Night Football. And I think I'm going to have a different grade than both of you guys when it comes to both sides of the ball, defensively, offensively, and the head coach. The quarterback, Jalen Hurts, a lot of stuff that happened. Number one, Brian Flores started that game with a hell of a game plan. He implored the Thursday Night Football game plan that he used with the Miami Dolphins when they beat the Baltimore Ravens. They went double mug, nickel, double mug. They basically played cover zero and were blitzing anybody they could blitz to get after the quarterback. They sent one more than we had blockers. And the Philadelphia Eagles, the first quarter, were a little bit hesitant on how to actually attack that. And for all the crap Brian Johnson got in one quarter of Twitter, for the next 3 quarters, he put on a masterclass of how to beat that defense. That's all that's all I have to say to it. So if we're going to talk about the coach, we're going to talk about the head coach and the quarterback and the defensive coordinator. Let me give Brian Johnson a little bit of slack, right? We gave him crap last week for the game he called in New England, which he deserved. And the first quarter, we were all over Twitter, Brian Johnson, Brian Johnson, Brian Johnson. But what I will say is he made the adjustment and showed exactly how to beat that. I mean, it's basically a nano blitz, a nickel double zero, nickel double A gap blitz that they were running, and give them all the credit in the world. Philadelphia Eagles came through, looked great, and I'm super happy about that. Ran the ball all down in my Minnesota Vikings throat. So, any comments on Brian Johnson for getting grades?
I mean,
sure.
The guy needs time. I mean, everybody wants it to be instant. They're going to have to learn how to dance together. And, there are some things that I see from Jalen that I'll bring up, as we do the grades. But guys, like, what's going on here? Like, stop.
Adjustments is the key. With him from week 1 he wasn't adjusting. I did see some adjustment this week, and he did realize, hey, we need the running game for us to work. And he actually put the best running back on the roster out on the field and gave him the lion's share of the carries. And I think he fell into that because of injuries, but it worked. Johnson, I am curious to see what Monday night is going to look like. Are you going to continue to do what's been successful, or are you going to reinvent the wheel even though it's not broken? So we will see how things go.
I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles are getting a killer bees of defensive coaches. You basically had Bill Belichick week 1, you had Brian Flores week 2, and now you're getting Todd Bowles. All three of those guys are top 10 defensive coaches in the NFL. You're going to get another different defensive scheme that you haven't seen. It's all about adjustments. And Brian Johnson made those adjustments in the second quarter, relied on the big uglies in that offensive line. That offensive line absolutely dominated the football game. You know, when people ask about who's the best player on the Eagles roster, who's the best player on the Eagles roster? People say Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Darius Slay. I think the best player on the Eagles roster is a unit, and I think that unit is the offensive line. That's your biggest weapon. The best weapon on the Eagles roster is that offensive line. Allow them to push people around, allow them to move people out of the way, and allow them to do what they do best. DeAndre Swift looked great, but he was running through holes that were huge. So let's talk about the quarterback first, Jalen Hurts. We'll see what grade you guys give him. Godfrey, start with you. What grade do you give Jalen Hurts?
It's a tough one for him. Went back and forth on this. Got to give him a B-. He won the game. He was able to connect with Devontae Smith. He did miss some open receivers. I was there in person. So a little bit different of a vantage point than usually I'm on TV. TV, I feel, is better. But, one thing I did notice, and I looked it up later, is he's got footwork issues going on right now. And this is what's going on with his passing game. If you look at the film, you look at that, he's just not comfortable. And if you look at his feet, he's not set. There's things that are having him not be confident in the pass game, which are things that are going to get worked out. Right. And so I'm going to give him a B- because, there were some times where he missed some open receivers. As a player, I remember he missed a wide open Dallas Goedert, Joey Donuts from the upper level could see that, and the peanut guy too. But Jalen couldn't. And, I think he's getting acclimated to a new offensive coordinator, and they're learning how to work together and dance together. I mean, you guys think that, like, when he first started getting play calls from Shane Steichen, that it was like smooth right away. I know he took it over at a certain point, but Shane Steichen was always involved. He just might not have been calling the plays at a certain point. So, I mean, I'm giving him a B-. I saw some good things. I didn't like how he protected the ball. I didn't like the indecision behind the line by him. And I think part of that was a game plan by Brian Flores that was inducing that at the beginning, but at the end, they got the victory, and I'm going to give him a B-. So
we'll get into that, Kyle. He said, I agree. They will get it together. A.J. Brown needs to chill with the antics. He will get his numbers. Cool. What grade would you give Jalen Hurts on Thursday Night Football last week?
I'm going to give Jalen Hurts a solid B. Jalen Hurts was not asked to do as much this week because the running game took over, right? So I'm not going to punish the stats because he didn't get as many opportunities. And that's okay. We won the game. We were able to put the ball in their throat with the run. So what we need to do is just chill and let that happen when it works out. I do have some comments about the AJ situation. I'll wait until we get to that. The biggest thing I want to see from Jalen Hurts is I want to see confidence. I don't see the confidence that I saw last year. He looks like he's going to cry every play. Right on the sideline, when he's on the field, he just looks like he's going to cry. His face just looks like he's going to cry. I want to see the guy that we had last year that was just stoic, that was chill, that was in command. I don't think we're quite back to seeing that. I think that's the difference in why, like you said, Godfrey, his feet are not set. He's not confident. He's guessing himself. Just go out there and make the reads and throw the ball, right? Just to borrow one little piece of information from that foolish interview from that kid from Chicago. I'm not even going to say his name because I'm not going to promote anybody. That's silly. But the one thing he said that I do agree with for all quarterbacks is let them play their game. Let Jalen Hurts play his game. You have tape of him playing his game for a season. You were on the staff last year. But on the flip side, Jalen Hurts, what I want from you, sir, is you know what works. You've been in the league a couple of years. If you see a play is not going to work, sir, audible. Put something in place that you're comfortable with and use that. Use the skills and tools that you have to be successful. That's what I would like to see from one Jalen Alexander Hurts.
So I give him a B plus. You said solid B. Godfrey said B minus. Godfrey, I don't know how many passes the guy missed. I know the interception was bad, but he was 18 at 23, and he hit 2 really big balls to Devontae Smith. He also hit another ball. I got called back to A.J. Brown because of Rashad Penny, which, by the way, wasn't a hold. Like, they showed that replay. That was not a hold.
Yeah.
They missed. I mean, in reality, what did he miss? 4 balls the entire game. I can't blame that on him. I actually think the game plan worked out perfectly. We'll get into the A.J. Brown talk. I promise.
Plus a pass interference too, right? Where that would have been a catch.
100%.
Yeah, the pass interference
That's
was another beautiful ball. Yeah,
exactly. So I gave him a B plus. I think the interception was bad. Interception was 100% a bad read. But that's all I can really look at. It's all I can point to. I think the throw he made to Devontae Smith for the touchdown is not talked about enough. I understand it looked like Devontae Smith was wide open, but there was a reason for that. Minnesota's running cover 0. They have an unblocked rusher, which happened to be Jordan Hicks on the play. He was unblocked, untouched. Jalen Hurts took a hit on the throw. He knew he was going to take a hit. He stood in there to be able to make that touchdown pass, which I don't think it gets talked about enough. I think Jalen Hurts looked great. I think the second half, the second quarter to the end of the game, he looked awesome. I think it took a little bit of adjustment period to try to figure out what to do with that double mug look that Brian Flores was giving him. But if I'm being honest with myself, I'm going to tell you, I think Jalen Hurts had a much better game than people give him credit for. Let's talk about Nick Sirianni. Let's talk about, and this in turn goes with Brian Johnson. The offensive, how did the offense look? The offensive play calling, how did the game plan look? Were they prepared? I'm giving Nick Sirianni a B plus also. Through 2 B pluses out the gate. I think that Nick Sirianni did a good job preparing the team for the game. Minnesota came in, started on fire, looked good defensively. But I'll tell you what, that Eagles team did not look unprepared. DeAndre Swift looked great. I felt like the offensive game plan adjusted immediately. And I think that they ran the ball right down their throat. The statistics tell you that the Eagles ran the ball 48 times for 259 yards. But you're forgetting there's 3 tush pushes in there that are 3 yards total. They average 5.4 yards per carry. DeAndre Swift was 28 for 175. Boston Scott was 5 for 40. I love the way the Philadelphia Eagles offense looked. And outside of the 1 interception and Jalen Hurts holding the ball a little bit on a couple sacks, I think that they were flawless offensively. I think the penalty on Rashad Penny was a joke. I think the non-PI call on A.J. Brown was a joke. I think we had a lot of stuff go against us in that game as far on our offensive side that they still overcame with 34 points. So I think that's something I kind of wanted to bring up, is I think Nick Sirianni deserves a solid B plus for that game. Cool.
I'm going to give Nick Sirianni a C. And I'm going to give Nick Sirianni a C because DeAndre Swift did not play week 1. For some reason, you had the genius decision to not play him week 1. So I'm going to punish you in week 2 for a poor decision in week 1.
It's fair.
So that's why I'm going to give him a C. I agree with everything you said for this game, actually. But the fact that you had this guy, you traded for him, you brought him in to be the number 1, and then you didn't play him the Sunday before, you're going to get a C because you don't have sense enough to play your best players every week.
DeAndre Swift, though, is very fragile. He's been fragile. He doesn't get 28 carries back-to-back weeks without having an injury. So I'm hoping to say that they go back to him. I don't want him to get our 28 carries. I love him, and if the moment calls for it, we can give him 28 carries, but I don't want him. I would like to see a backfield in which he's getting 20, Rashad Penny's getting 10, Gainwell's getting 5, and then you're running the ball 35 times a game. It kind of splits it down the middle where he's getting 55% of the workload.
I want to switch that. I want Penny getting less carries as possible. He looks fat and slow right now.
That's fair. I just want him to be in there for the bruiser carries. I think that he can really get you.
That's why
cardio. Okay, that's fair. I understand. Kenneth Gainwell is ultra average. He's like super average, the definition of what average is. Godfrey,
but if he gets a seam, He can fly.
Okay. Godfrey, what did you give Nick Sirianni?
I'm gonna give him a B. And the reason is because they adjusted, right? They saw that certain things weren't working. It wasn't so much Jalen wasn't putting the ball on the money. I think he was missing open receivers, and Dallas Goedert was one of them. If you look at the average yards that Goedert was getting in the catch, it was like 6 catches for like 27 yards or something stupid like that. And I just think there was, I don't know if that's more the product of the game plan from the defensive coordinator, or we're just not seeing it open. And there was a particular play where I saw Dallas Goedert was wide open, and it would have easily been a touchdown, and didn't see him. So I don't think he was horrible, Jalen. And I'm connecting this to my grade for Sirianni. I'm giving, I just think he wasn't as sharp as he could have been, and I think people were overreacting. And I think it was great that Sirianni said, let's go to our bread and butter, because anybody can run on the Minnesota Vikings, including my grandma. She's not even alive anymore. So, DeAndre Swift, I applaud him for running him that long. I think, and I'm going to get into this on our next show, I think the Lions are idiots for trading them and what their plan was, and it's playing out in the season, and I'm going to stick till it till the end. He had how many carries? 33? No, he had 28. 28. He's had other games that, like, I do think he's been injured, right? He's never played less than 13 games. He's definitely been hampered, and I agree 100% there. But I do think that's a little bit overplayed. If you go back to 21, he had 33 carries against the Steelers and had 130 yards. It was a tie, if you guys remember that game. Now, the next week, he had 136 yards, only 14 carries, okay, against the, it was a loss against the Browns. This is 21. So that year, he had about 150 carries. Toward the end of the year, I think he was hurt. So he can run between the tackles. And I applaud Nick Sirianni for letting him show that he can do that, because if there's a team that you're going to be able to do that on, it's the Eagles. And, him getting 175 yards is not surprising to me behind this offensive line and this run scheme. And, I know it was a homecoming for him. I liked what he did. And I liked that Nick Sirianni said, listen, let's ride this guy to a victory. And they needed to do that. And I didn't have a huge problem. I'm expecting an adjustment period for Shane Steichen not being there anymore and Brian Johnson. I think we all had unrealistic expectations. And I've said it myself as far as the relationship that Brian Johnson has had with Jalen Hurts long-term, that it would be something that would be full go right away because of that relationship. And that's just not realistic on all of our parts for that to be. There is going to be an adjustment period, and it's not horrible. It's not like they're 0-2. They're 2-0, and they're still adjusting. That's a win. You know what I mean?
I completely agree with you. They're 2-0, and that's a win. What I will say is this, right? And I don't want to get too far off of this. The one way I wish the Eagles would use him more is in the passing game.
Yes.
He's averaged 53 receptions a year the last 3 years and only playing 13 games a season. So I want to see him
100%.
more in the passing game. He's a dynamic weapon. He's fast. He looks quicker than anybody else in the field when he's running the ball, and I got to give him all the credit in the world. But for the interest of time, we got to move forward to Sean Desai, the defensive coordinator. What grade would you give Sean Desai, Godfrey? Now, keep in mind, played with Josh Jobe on the outside, and Avonte Maddox got hurt in the first quarter. By the way, Avonte Maddox's injury is almost 100% caused by his own teammate, which drives me nuts. But I don't want to get too far into that, and we'll talk about that later. But what would you give Sean Desai a grade for the Philadelphia Eagles defense?
I'm B's across the board. Listen, I'm B plus, borderline A. There was turnovers. They got the ball.
4 of them.
4 of them. You're playing against an all-world receiver, a really good rookie in Jordan Addison, and you did what you're supposed to do. You put the offensive position to win, and I didn't really have any problem with his game plan. I felt like, the only thing I would have a problem with is, and this is why I'm going B plus. And again, this is the design of the Eagles defense. It's the funnel defense. TJ Hawkinson, I could have bet my left nut that he was going to have a field day, and he did. And he got a touchdown over the middle. They were going to town, and that's the design of this defense. I think it's a philosophical move. That's how the Eagles want their defenses run. I really, really do. And I think they're like, all right, we'll give it to you over the middle and we're going to limit big plays. I'm not a fan of that, but that's why I haven't gone full A, because they did rake us over the middle.
Cool. What would you give the Philadelphia Eagles defense and defensive coordinator Sean Desai?
I'm going to have to B-.
Okay.
Because we allowed too many points to Kirk Cousins on a primetime game. We allowed him to look like one of the better quarterbacks in the league because we have a donut. To me, our defense is a donut right now, right? You got everything on the outside, but you got this hole in the middle where you can get your yards at. And we're not, obviously, personnel, and I'm not saying like Sean Desai, oh, you're garbage for not fixing this, because you have to get some guys back, which hopefully we will, for this coming game. But I'm giving them a B- because we did get turnovers. I'm very excited about that and like the fact that we did get turnovers. But this is a team who turned the ball over a lot in week 1, 2. So is it that we really force turnovers, or we just played against a team who just really can't get out of their own way and are just turning the ball over? Obviously, we benefited from them, but I'd like to see the defense be able to have more stands. But there was a lot of times where there was third downs and we had opportunities to get off the field, and they pretty much just did their thing. On the flip side, we're averaging 52 yards a game given up by the defensive line. So we're not allowing teams to run. So they're saying they're not going to let us run. Their weakness is in the middle. We're going to have to attack that, because if we try to attack deep, it doesn't work well. If we try to run the ball, it doesn't work well. So we're making teams one-dimensional. But the thing is, we've got to figure out a way to punish them some when they're going through that middle. So that's why I say B-. But I am happy, and I like the way that things are going with the defense.
I give the Sean Desai a C-. And I'll explain why. And I kind of try to set you guys up for giving him a higher score. I'm sure you guys already had your grade coming into the show, but I was trying to set you guys up for a higher score because I think that the personnel decisions were awful. I think Mario Goodrich playing over Keely Ringo or Eli Ricks made no sense to me. He looked lost. He did not understand any of so Mario Goodrich got beat for 2 touchdowns, and both touchdowns, it was he passed the receiver off or didn't pass the receiver off when he should have. Both touchdowns, the one on the big play. And we talk about the turnovers, right? You brought the turnovers up, but how many of them were unforced errors? The only turnover I give them credit for was the fumble on Kirk Cousins. I don't give them credit on Justin Jefferson reaching to the end zone and dropping the ball. I don't give them credit on Alexander Madison dropping the football. You watched a replay of that play. He basically just dropped the football. He looked terrible. It wasn't forced. I think that Sean Desai defense is going to look good when all the pieces to the puzzle are there. But when he has to make adjustments to pieces of the puzzle, I haven't seen that yet. I think the defensive line has been out of this world. I don't give him credit for Jordan Davis pushing an offensive guard into the quarterback, which was incredible. I don't give him credit for Jalen Carter having the most hurries after a quarterback from an interior lineman in the league. I don't give him credit for Josh Sweat absolutely abusing the Vikings backup right tackle. I don't give him credit for that. That's not Sean Desai. What I will give him credit for is I'll give him credit for his adjustments, and his adjustments were bad. I don't think they were good. I think I would put Eli Ricks in the game, Keely Ringo, before I put Mario Goodrich in the game. I felt like that they made a huge mistake there, and Goodrich got cooked. The guy was absolutely embarrassed, and I hope they don't do it again. I hope Bradbury's back, and you can move Job into the slot. Job played great. Give him credit for Job. I think Job did a good job. But the middle of that field, they were terrible. Not just bad, terrible. So I can't give him enough credit for that. Well, let's get into the A.J. Brown situation before we get into our preview of Monday Night Football. I think me and Cool are on the opposite sides of the fence here based off of previous conversations and tweets and listening to his show. I think we're on the opposite sides of the fence here, and that's okay.
We are.
I 100% am so sick and tired of teammates, people on the field. He's paid already. He's not in a contract year. I'm going to give my 2 cents. I'll pass it right to Cool so he can give his opinion. 2 out of the last 4 games the Eagles played that were wins, this man has been fighting on the sideline with Jalen Hurts or the coordinators because he's not getting the ball enough. I think that's absolute bullshit. You play to win the game. Hello? I'll give you to Herm Edwards because A.J. Brown is a great receiver. And I know he's 1K always open. I understand that. However, there are times that the game dictates that we throw the ball to A.J. Brown, and he's seen that last year. He was one of the top receivers in football. And there are times where the game dictates that we run the football or Devontae Smith eats. And after the argument that A.J. Brown got in on the sideline, instead of waiting until they got in the locker room to argue about it, after that argument, what did they do the first play out of that timeout? They force-fed the ball to A.J. Brown. Incompletion. Next play, penalty. Force-fed the ball to A.J. Brown. Granted, I don't think the Rashad Penny was a penalty, and I think the Eagles should have scored a touchdown there. However, I don't like, dude, if we're losing and Jalen Hurts is throwing the double coverage all game, fine. But we're not losing. He did it 3 games already in an Eagles uniform, and the man is already paid. He did it to Gardner Minshew where he showed him up and he didn't run a route that got intercepted versus New Orleans. He did it in the New York Giants game when the Eagles were winning the game at the time, 31-3. And he did it again on Monday Night Football. And at the time he did it, the Eagles were up double digits in the game with the ball. I don't agree with it. I hate bad teammates. I'm not saying he's a bad teammate, but I'm saying that the move was a bad teammate move. Now, Cole's frozen. Cole, you there still?
I can go.
Please go until Cole gets unfroze.
So I'm kind of in the middle of it. I hear you say, but I do remember him saying that he was signaling the Minshew to change the route, and he didn't because of the coverage. But he still shouldn't have threw him under the bus. I'm kind of in the middle. I don't really have a huge problem with it. I do have a problem with him when we're winning and saying that, when I'm just going to read you a quote of what he said. This is a recent update. He said, Gene is not buying his brand. A.J. Brown on Jalen Hurts incident. Sometimes emotions run high. That doesn't mean I'm beefing with Jalen. He laughed. And no, it was not about targets. I'm sure everybody thought that. It's because he threw me the ball 3 times in a row afterwards. But no, I was not over there discussing targets. It was about something else that happened earlier. And we're having a discussion about it. It's not a big deal. Me and him are still on the same page. We're still trying to grow, be great, and get wins, most importantly. So I do smell a lot of bullshit in that. For sure, because if it wasn't about that, and you said it was about this, then what was it about? And we couldn't talk about that. So that means that it was really about that.
I will give Sirianni credit, though. Sirianni's answer to it when he was asked about it at the press conference was gold. I got to give him all the credit in the world. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't see that argument. They're like, well, you were actually involved in it. He goes, not going to talk about things happen on the field. I love that. Defend your players. Keep it in-house. I love that. Cool. I'm really interested to hear your take on this because I've already heard half of it.
So a couple of questions first.
Yes, sir.
All the plays that you mentioned, was or was not A.J. Brown open on every one of those plays?
Of course he was. A.J. Brown's always open. 1K always open.
Exactly. Now, was not A.J. Brown brought in to be the guy?
He was. Paid $25 million to be the guy.
So if you're the guy in long periods of time are going and you're not even getting a target, I get like you're not getting a lot, but you're not getting a target. I cannot speak for you. I cannot speak for Godfrey. I cannot speak for anybody else. But I believe me and A.J. Brown have one thing in common. Obviously, we don't have the same physique. We don't have the same work ethic. We're both not NFL wide receivers.
Same 40 time?
But definitely not. But give me the freaking ball. I'm the guy. I need the ball, bro. I need some target. I need you to look at me. I'm not saying every play. Godfrey talked earlier about missing throws, missing opportunities. He missed opportunities with A.J. Brown. So at some point, I'm the top receiver. I'm the alpha receiver on this team. I'm going over there and say, hey, bro, you my boy. You my kid's godfather. Come here. I'm open. You need to give me the ball. You know, Dallas Goedert's open. Probably said something about that too. You need to get him the ball. We need to spread this ball around a little bit. I'm not saying stop the running game, but I'm saying when you are looking, you need to really read this defense, and you need to make throws to everybody. And I'm the number one. I want the freaking ball. I don't have a problem with him saying that. Now, if he's over there arguing, coming to blows, causing a distraction on the team, that's one thing. But he's saying, I want the freaking ball. I'm the number one. Feed me. I'm hungry. You got the food, and you won't give it to me. If you don't want that the number one receiver, then let's go back to the days where we had trash like Todd Pinkston and Freddie Mitchell and trash like that. If you're not going to give them the ball, that's what you're going to have. You want to have the top guys, you got to feed them, period.
It happened in between the third and fourth quarter. The Philadelphia Eagles were up 27-14. They had the ball at the Minnesota Vikings 37-yard line. I'm going to read you the play calls afterwards. Jalen Hurts, incomplete, short right to A.J. Brown. 2nd and 10. Rashad Penny for 1 yard. 3rd down, he went to Devontae Smith for 8 yards. 4th and 1, we got a tush push for 3. And then 1st down and 10, Jalen Hurts deep right to A.J. Brown. Touchdown nullified by penalty to Rashad Penny. Then 1st and 20, Jalen Hurts pass incomplete deep to A.J. Brown. And then Jalen Hurts was sacked. And then Jalen Hurts was sacked. The offense was moving. 3 out of the last 4 drives were touchdowns. I don't agree with the premise of arguing for the ball when we're moving. If we're stagnant and you're arguing for the ball, fine. But the offense was moving. Do you want us to stop?
But you just said yourself, Gene. You just said yourself, Gene. There was 2 touchdowns in that drive to A.J. Brown. One was a penalty that wasn't called, and the other one was a penalty that shouldn't have been called. So you're acting as if throwing the ball to A.J. Brown was what happened. No, the penalties are what happened. A.J. Brown did what a number one receiver is supposed to do. If you don't want a number one that's going to get pissed off when you don't get the ball, trade A.J. Brown and bring in some number 2s. If you want a number one, feed him the freaking ball. Period. That's how the NFL is. Do you think Justin Jefferson has to go to his quarterback and say, hey, give me the ball? No, because he's getting the ball.
I mean, I think
it doesn't matter. He's getting the ball.
I think there's a line, right, where we'll use Devontae Smith as the line, and we'll use Quez Watkins as the low end and A.J. Brown as the high end. I don't want him on the Quez Watkins level because that he's gonna get boxed out for the ball. I don't want him all the way on, we'll say, the high A.J. Brown line. I want him kind of in between A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, right? Devontae Smith is pretty even-keeled. And the thing is though, I do get what Cool's saying to an extent because that is the guy he is, and you do want that. I mean, like T.O., he wanted the ball, right, when he was here, when he was in other places, because all these receivers are divas and they want the ball. I mean, the number ones are usually divas. He didn't throw him under the bus, though, saying he was doing this or that. So I will give A.J. Brown credit there. I do think there's a time and place, but I'm not so much upset because I just think it's a slippery slope. For him to be upset about it and they're winning, I think it's a bad look, but I'm not so much upset long-term about it because I do think that they're tight off the field. And, you know, it's kind of hard to tell, like, what was that conversation? Was he saying, like, hey, man, get your head out your ass. You're missing open receivers, you know, or was he saying, listen, give me the ball?
I'm going to give you some stats I brought on, and I waited until Cool went on his rant. It's basically my counterpunch. Okay? Last year, who won the Super Bowl? Kansas City Chiefs. Number 1 target, Travis Kelce. When was the last time you seen Travis Kelce yelling for the ball? Patrick, you need to throw me the ball. Arguing with Pat over throwing the ball. Okay, let's go year before that. The Rams won the Super Bowl. Hold on. The Rams won the Super Bowl.
Oh.
Cooper Kupp. You don't see him arguing with Matthew Stafford about getting the ball. The year before that, Mike Evans, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You never see Mike Evans, Chris Godwin arguing with Tom Brady about getting him the ball. The year before that, you can keep going back. The Philadelphia Eagles, I just want wide receivers that prioritize winning over getting the ball. I don't need Keyshawn Johnson. I need Mike Evans. Give me the damn ball. It's an old dated thing. I don't like that. A.J. Brown's going to get his. There's going to be games where he's going to have 14, 15 targets and 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. Happened last year. there's also going to be games where DeAndre Swift's eaten, and we have to rely on our offensive line and running the football. And he has to understand that. And the games that in which he's been arguing with Jalen Hurts have not been the games in which we're losing. I didn't see him arguing with Jalen Hurts on the sideline in the San Fran game. I didn't see him arguing with Jalen Hurts on the sideline in the Kansas City game. I seen him arguing in a game that we're winning 31-3 over the New York Giants, and a game where we're winning 27-14 with the ball versus the Minnesota Vikings. The offense was moving.
So what you're saying is, I don't want you to argue for the ball when we're winning. I want you to argue for the ball when you're losing, and then I'm good. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying if he's
or are you saying you don't want him to argue for the ball at all? I just need to clarify so I can understand.
I would understand him arguing for the ball if the offense was stagnant and we were losing the game and he was open and he wasn't getting targets. I don't want to see him arguing for the ball when we're winning the game and the offense is moving. When the offense is rolling, I don't want them to change anything. It could be a different – the reason Super Bowl teams are Super Bowl teams is because 52 guys put the team in front of themselves. On Thursday Night Football last week, A.J. Brown did not put the team in front of himself. That's my problem.
That's egregious. That's egregious.
Please tell me why.
Oh, sure. I'm about to tell you why. That's egregious. Number one, because for me, if we're already losing a game, if we're already down and we're needing to go a different route because the game is dictating it and we're losing, I don't want to see you arguing for the ball then. I want to see you let the game play. That's when I want to see you say, okay, we're losing, so let's do what we need to do. Cool. I understand we're trying to do it this way because we are down. We're losing. We need to go another route. If those are the games I don't get the ball, Devontae Smith's open, Dallas Goedert's open, A.J. Brown's not getting the ball. No, I don't want to see him argue when we're down. Who wants to argue when you're down? No, that's not when you need to. You need to let the team do what they're supposed to do because maybe you're down because you're being taken out of the game by the specific team. That team did not have a guy to take him out of that game. They should have gave him the ball. He shouldn't have had to argue. If Mike Evans is playing the Vikings, he's not having to go say Tom Brady or the clown they got now, give me the ball, right? He doesn't have to do that. These guys that you named, they don't have to go to their quarterback and say, give me the ball when they're playing somebody who they have beaten every play. The ball is getting to them, so they don't have to say anything. If this guy is not having the ball thrown at him some, then he needs to go say, hey, man, look, I ain't got to touch it a while. You know what I'm saying? Now, maybe, he said some other stuff. I don't know. Like Godfrey said, I can't say everything he said, but I'm sure part of it was I want to get some looks. Part of it could also be, look, man, you're not throwing the ball to Dallas either. We don't know. But when he was talking about only himself, he's the number one receiver. There's opportunities for him to get the ball. He went out and showed you that he could make plays, and if it wasn't for 2 penalties, he would have had a touchdown. So if you're saying, hey, he went out and asked for the ball, and then we went 3 and out. Okay, maybe he needed to chill. But he went out and showed when the ball was thrown to him what he can do. But because of something beyond his control, a bogus penalty that was called and a bogus penalty that was not called, those plays didn't count. So I'm saying to myself as I watch, I'm saying, shoot, he's right. You give him the ball, he makes plays. So give him the ball. Now, like I said, when we're losing, that's when I don't want to see it. Now, if I see it when we're losing, then I'm in your shoes. I'm like, yo, we losing. We trying to figure out a way to get back in the game, and you worried about your stats? Come on, bro. You worried about getting the ball? Maybe you're the decoy right now because we're losing and we need to go other routes. But when you're up and you go out there and you prove in the drive when you get the ball that I can make things happen, I don't have a problem with you saying it. Now, again, this happens every week.
I'm just
you
shocked.
Always see this every time. That's a problem.
I'm just shocked that it goes in that direction when they're winning a football game. You see everybody on the sidelines having a great time, happy, they're rolling, and A.J. Brown's upset. And it's like, to me, it's like you're winning the game. You're winning the game. That's what we're tasked to do. The record means more than the reception. But I get your point. I understand it.
I feel like he didn't like T.O. affected like Donovan, I think, to a certain extent for whatever reason we can debate.
Jalen, you're right. I agree with
a
you.
Huge extent.
And I don't think A.J. Brown is affecting Jalen. If he does, then it becomes a problem. And I don't think we're there.
All right, I guess we'll sit back and watch. It'll be an interesting conversation, but we got to preview the Eagles versus Buccaneers. We're at the time to preview that. The Buccaneers on Monday Night Football, Raymond James Stadium is a very tough place to play, especially on Monday Night Football. The Buccaneers are 2-0. I give a lot of credit to that Todd Bowles style defense. They're healthy this year. They're looking a lot better. And guess what? Say what you want to say about that clown down in Tampa Bay, and I do think he's a clown. Baker Mayfield is not turning the football over. 3 touchdowns. He has a 70% completion percentage, and he's thrown for 500 yards. So I got to give him the credit where credit's due. 104 quarterback rating. But the leaders of that team is that defense, man. Devin White has been playing out of his mind. I think that Ryan Neal, Jamal Dean, Antoine Winfield, Levante David, all those guys have been playing good football, especially Antoine Winfield. I think he's definitely an underrated safety in the league. Got to give him all the credit in the world. And Vita Vea is an absolute force in the middle of that defense, stopping the run. So what are your keys to victory for the Eagles offense on Monday Night Football versus that Buccaneers defense? Cool. I'm going to start with you because you're so fired up from the A.J. Brown debate.
So what the Eagles need to do offensively is run the ball, take what's given to you. If they play off, attack on the short routes with the slots, the slants, the different crossing routes and whatever. If they give you the big balls, send different guys deep and make them work for it, make them pay. If they're giving up the run, slash them with the run. Just look at the defense and react to what they're doing after your scripted plays. That's what the offense needs to do, and don't turn the ball over. So Hurts protect the ball. If the play's not there, throw it out of bounds and reset. Don't take the hit for nothing. If you have a lane and you feel like you can run and it's not up the middle, because if it's up the middle, throw the ball away. I don't want you running up the middle unless it's a tush push. You don't need to be going up the middle. But if it's a run around the edge or where you can break outside, get what you can get down. Make them respect you as a runner so that they have to spy you. That takes somebody away from the defense that could be doing something else. But take what's given to you. Accept the fact that some of these drives may end in a punt or a field goal. Take the time off the clock, give the defense an opportunity to rest, score when you had the opportunity, but do not turn the ball over. And that should be the formula for us to win this game offensively. Defensively, we got to get some guys healthy, and we have to do something about that donut hole in the middle. We got to plug it up. That's going to be getting guys like Blankenship back. We know who's not coming back. FYI, Sidney Brown did play nickel corner in college, so there may be something to look into. Yeah, I think Ringo and some of those other guys, they didn't play because they don't feel comfortable about them playing yet, right?
Yeah,
maybe Ringo and Ricks don't look like they're comfortable with them yet, maybe. But Brown seeing time on the field,
primary outside corners. You're right. Rick and Ringo
so maybe they didn't
primary outside corners.
Yeah, so maybe we slide Sidney Brown over there a little bit. See what he's got. We made some moves this week, but shore up that middle, allow that line to attack, stop them from being a running team like we've been doing the last 2 games, make them have to throw, and then shore up that middle so they will at least hesitate and not just say, "Oh, the middle's open, let's go." I mean, that's the keys to victory for me.
I completely agree with your game plan defensively. Offensively, I don't think running the football is the move versus this Tampa Bay team. They're one of the best run defenses in football. I think this is the game in which you get A.J. Brown involved. This is the A.J. Brown game. Prime time, Monday Night Football. You know where Tampa Bay is strong? Their safeties. They're going to take away your slot. They're going to take away Devontae Smith a lot in the middle, Dallas Goedert. But where they are not strong, the way you can beat this Tampa Bay team is on the outside. Their corners are –
Amen. Yeah.
I'm telling you, the corners are.
That's why I said, take what they give you. I just gave examples. Yeah. That's why I said, take what they give you. If they give you the outside, take it.
I think Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis are a formidable cornerback group, but I think that both of those guys are not elite corners, and A.J. Brown should have a field day. And you make the Tampa Bay Buccaneers use that over-the-top safety to be able to open up DeAndre Swift in the passing game, not necessarily the running game. I could see a drop-off. I just think that look, Tampa Bay's defense is so good against the run because they have one of the fastest linebackers in football in Devin White. They have one of the best linebackers at reading plays in Levante David. And Shaq Barrett. We're forgetting about Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett's an absolute stud too. You look, and then as far as their defensive line goes, you got to plug right in the middle. You got to run stretch plays around this guy, Vita Vea. Vita Vea is an absolute stud. I think that if you're going to run the ball, the success you're going to have is on those stretch plays and on those pitch plays. I don't think that they'll be able to run the ball up the middle against this team. I think Jason Kelce and Landon Dickerson are going to have all they can handle in the middle of that field. So defensively, I agree with you 100%, man. Reed Blankenship coming back, James Bradbury trying into play. That's all good, right? I love hearing things like that. I think that will allow Terrell Edmonds to slide back to his role, and then you can run into that situation where you play a couple different nickel corners. I'm good with either one of them. Justin Evans, I'm good with it, right? But offensively, I think that this is the game where you need to see the X plays. Big play from A.J. Brown. I think this is the A.J. Brown game. Godfrey, what's your thoughts?
You still got to run the ball. You still got to run it. You can't just.
Well, no, you have to run the ball. I just don't think
people still run the ball against us. You still got to.
I don't think the game plan be formulated around the run.
Vita Vea is a monster, and he swallows up the run. I don't care what run game you have. You still have to run it. But where this defense has a weakness is the outside Gene was talking about. But they also they're not good when teams do it at protecting against the running backs getting passes to the outside in the flat, okay? That is something, and I could give you a few stats to support that. They didn't play two good teams, right, in the back-to-back. But what was noticeable is when you look at the stat sheet, you'd probably be surprised if I tell you that the Vikings had about 6 passes to the running back, right? And I'm sure a total of 35 yards, right? You go to the Bears game. Bears weren't really great on offense. But you look at that again, and these Eagles are much better than both these teams that they're playing, right? So you look at the Bears, they had, 3 catches for 33 yards. Khalil Herbert had one for 23 yards, okay? The Bears aren't known for their great game planning right now. So hopefully the Eagles say, hey, now let's release DeAndre Swift in the flat and have those linebackers, because they're bigger linebackers on the Buccaneers, right? They're not guys that are going to be flying sideline to sideline. They're great linebackers, but they're susceptible to the pass to the running back out of the flat, and I think they can expose them that way. I do think that A.J. Brown has a big game, and I just think that they can be overpowered, and we've seen it happen with this Bucs secondary. And I think you're going to have to be different, because I think Todd Bowles is going to take away certain things that are your bread and butter, and he's going to say, we're going to make you go to the outside. I don't think he's going to let us run up the middle. He's going to game plan for that. And I do think you're going to take away Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert's probably going to have to come in and block a lot more than usual, I think, going up against this defense. So I think you do run the ball. You do get the ball to AJ, and I want to see some screen passes. And, when I was talking about the grades last week, that is one thing I did forget, and Gene kind of brought it up, and I think cool you did to a certain level, is I want to see the Eagles get more balls in the flat to their playmakers like DeAndre Swift, and that's something I haven't seen yet from this offense. And I don't know if it was the offense or Miles Sanders, because I'm watching Carolina, not that they're doing great. Miles Sanders got like 4 catches for like 40 yards. I'm like, where the hell was this when he was on the Eagles? Maybe he learned how to catch over the offseason. I don't know, but I just need to see that more. I want to see more of a screen game. And I think that with, the threat of Jalen Hurts running, it's something that could be done. And I think that's a way that you attack this Bucs defense. It's been like that for about 3 or 4 years.
And Goddard, too. Goddard in the screen game is amazing, but we haven't done it at all this season. So, I mean, I can agree with the screen game, too. But I'm just saying, like, you've got to look and see what they're doing. So if they're doing exactly what you guys are saying, then absolutely. But whatever they're doing, whatever you see that they're giving up, that's what you got to exploit. That's how you beat a defense like Tampa Bay. You look and say, okay, they're going to give us, for instance, the left flat. We got to throw the ball to the left flat. Once they figure it out, then we're going to try a couple of runs, throw them off, a couple of regular passes, see what's going on. But you have to be able to adapt throughout this game from series to series, from quarter to quarter, because they may give you different looks. They may try to confuse Hurts because they see that he's been a little, iffy based on what he normally does. So I think we're going to see a lot of that as well. It's just going to be one-upmanship. And I'm a little concerned because Brian Johnson, he did do better this week, but he's still a young coordinator. So one-upmanship, he could lose that matchup, but we may have to revert to some things, but still get it done.
I'm concerned I'm concerned about this is the type of offense, I mean defense that they're facing, where I don't know if you're not going to have as much room for error as you did with last week, and
Of
it's going
course.
to be
Oh,
more like
absolutely.
the week one. And I think that this team, if you give them some freebies, man, this is where it's going to bite you in the ass. I mean, that
I will say this though, Godfrey. I think the Philadelphia Eagles defense is primed to take advantage of Baker Mayfield.
I agree
Baker
there.
Mayfield holds the ball, and he's faced two defensive lines that are not good at getting after the quarterback. Baker Mayfield is 100%. The Eagles have not sacked the quarterback much the first 2 weeks of the season because the onus has been getting the ball out quick. Baker Mayfield is not that quarterback. Some quarterbacks are anticipatory throwers. Baker Mayfield, he's a see-it thrower. And I think Jalen Carter, I think Josh Sweat, who's been our best defender right now.
Underrated.
I think Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox and all those guys are eating this week. I love the Eagles defense against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense this week. I think that's a great matchup. I think the easiest bet in this game is the under. Let's give a score prediction for the game. We're about to wrap up at 6:53. Cool. Let me ask you a question real quick. What do you have the Eagles going 3-0? And what do you think about the score?
Yes, they're definitely going to be 3-0. I'm going to go 24-13.
24-13. I like that. I really do. Godfrey, what do you see on the game?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, but then, long time to prepare. They've been off since Thursday night. Eagles are favored by 4.5 right now as it sits. I see something like, a 27, 13 game. Yeah, I even go as far to 27-13 sounds about right to me.
It's so funny you said that. I was almost at that same precipice. I have the Eagles winning this game 27-17. I think it'll barely squeak under that 46 over under. I think the Eagles win the game. I think that, and I said last week on the same show, I said the Vikings are going to backdoor cover. I think the Eagles will be up 31-21, and the Vikings will score a late touchdown, miss the onside kick. And I was wrong on the score, but I was right on the premise.
You get that right? Yep, you do.
I'll take it a step further this week. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are up 27-10 on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers score a late touchdown to make it 27-17. And I think that the Eagles are never in jeopardy of losing the football game. I think the defense scores just as many touchdowns as Baker Mayfield. And I think that the Philadelphia Eagles roll in this one. I believe that. I think Baker's going to give them the football. I've watched Baker Mayfield play I watched Baker Mayfield play for too long to know that he is going to have a game in which he throws the football to the other team. He's going to fumble the football, and he's not going to be able to handle that pass rush Philadelphia has. And I think the extra time, the extra prep for Philadelphia will be enough. I got the Philadelphia Eagles win this one 27-17. Any counterfeit green this week, Godfrey?
Counterfeit green is the dude that was a murderer was not an Eagles fan that they had to search for. He stole that out of a trash can. So I just want to let you know all the things going around saying my man was an Eagles fan. He was not a Birds fan. Okay, number one. So it's counterfeit green because you're out there trying to take our names through the mud. He stole that out of a trash can, and the governor said that he would replace that. I have to question the Eagles fan though, who is counterfeit green for throwing this in the trash can. All right, why was it in the trash?
Godfrey, do you have a counterfeit green this week?
I do have a counterfeit green.
I called you Godfrey again. I did it again.
Hey, man, I told you.
I was just going to let it ride.
Hey, yeah, we're just going to let it ride.
I feel like I'm Shay Shay. I'm on Club Shay Shay right now. I keep calling you Skip.
Definitely don't want to be there.
Cool. No, do you have a counterfeit green?
That's not just Club Shay Shay. I do. So my counterfeit green is to the early reports that Eagles fans were the ones that were disrespectful messages and death threats to Alexander Mattison. Once the truth came out, it was actually Vikings fans who were upset. It didn't make sense. Why would Eagles fans be mad that Alexander Mattison fumbled and sucked? If anything, we'd have been sending messages saying thank you and cash apps like, appreciate you, big homie. You helped us win. Why would we be mad at him? That was stupid.
I didn't.
My counterfeit green. We got to wrap up. We're already past about a minute. My counterfeit green is the media's coverage of the New England Patriots Miami Dolphins fight that happened in the stands. I'm gonna make two quick comments on this, and it's probably going to be unpopular. Number one, my prayers are out for the family. of both families for the guys that got in a fight and the one guy that lost his life in the game. Not national media. If that was in Philadelphia, that would be the national story for months. It would have been Philadelphia Eagles fans in a fight, and it's ridiculous. It's not being covered at all, and someone lost their life at the game. And the second part of the coverage of it, listen, this is gonna. I don't want this to come off disrespectful, but can we stop making the guy out that lost his life to be like he was a saint and he just wanted to make it home? He was the one that ran into the row of the Dolphins fan, and they got in a fight. They got in a fight, right? The one guy lost his life. I swear, my prayers go out to both families. But like, can we stop making it like he just wanted to go home and see his family, and this Dolphins fan didn't know how to handle winning? That's not what happened. Two guys got in a fight at a stadium. Please stop getting in fights at football stadiums over football players who couldn't give a damn less about you. Be smart. That's what I got this week. We got to wrap it up. Any final comments? Anything you guys want to add?
No.
Fly.
Baker Mayfield comes back to earth this week.
My 100%. This has been our best show of Birds Deep. I love talking sports with Cool and Godfrey, talking Eagles football. We will be back next week with the 3-0 Birds. Go Birds. I am Gene Walzak. That is D Godfrey. And we got the man, Cool McCain. We are signing out.